13 years later. This month, I'm actually celebrating my 13-year anniversary to getting diagnosed with an autoimmune disease and finding the lifestyle and inner work of my dreams. It has been such a long journey, and I wanted to take a moment and just celebrate the past 13 years and launch this series where I'm dissecting all of the nuances of what it took to really heal myself from the inside out. So in 2012, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis after a long journey of going from doctor to doctor with these really weird, strange, unexplained symptoms that I had. Which basically started when I was about 16 years old. I think I had a lot of these symptoms earlier. I just remember them at 16 because at 16, my hair went gray. Like, I still have a lot of gray hair from that experience. My hair started going gray and I was losing hair. I was starting to go bald. I was tired and fatigued all the time. I had these unexplained black circle things on my back, these patches, and I had joint pain. I was 16 and felt like I was like in a grandma's body. And it only got worse as I got older and I had stress and school and work and all the things. And so it wasn't until all the way until 2012 when I moved to Houston, Texas, when I finally got diagnosed. And after years of being told by doctors that maybe it was all in my head or maybe I was a hypochondriac, it's like finally I had the answers that I needed. And that started a huge deep dive for me into nutrition. Now, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nutritionist. I was just someone that was desperate and fighting for my life. Although I wasn't like lethal or anything, but I felt like it because in 2010, I lost my mother to ovarian cancer. And I still had that, like, I'm still grieving her death. And so in 2012, when I finally got the diagnosis, at this point, all my fingers and my wrist hurt so bad that my husband thought I had carpal tunnel. My knees hurt so bad that I couldn't go up and down the stairs in my home. I could barely lift my children up. My older one was 7 and he didn't really like to be carried, but my almost 2-year-old did. And I would have a very hard time like carrying him just from all the fatigue and all of the joint pain and everything I was having. And I had massive hair loss and just so many things, which I was told, well, that's just how it is in our family. Like, everyone has joint pain, everyone gains weight, everyone has hair loss. And I just couldn't accept that. And so I kept going doctor to doctor, trying to find a, figure something out. And the minute I found out what it was, I took matters in my control and went into this deep dive of nutrition, lifestyle, autoimmune journey, biohacking. And I started restudying, I would say, the Paleolithic lifestyle and hunter-gatherers. The interesting thing is that even though this is something I had studied in university, anthropology, evolutionary psychology, all the things, and I was very much interested in that topic and always reading up about it, for some reason, it wasn't until my diagnosis that I put the 2 and 2 together. It never even occurred to me that there could be an ideal human diet where you don't have these kind of issues. I just accepted the standard American diet and lifestyle as the one that I'm supposed to be living. Also, what boggles my head is that in all those years going to all those doctors, no one ever asked me, hey, what are you eating? What do you eat? No one asked me about my lifestyle. No one asked me about what I eat. They would just run a whole bunch of tests and tell me I had, these vitamin deficiencies. And actually, it was just iron. They kept telling me I'm anemic, which I was since birth. They didn't even test for vitamin D3, which I was really deficient in. So here are, in this celebration video, I just want to acknowledge the 13-year journey. I'm so glad that I'm here on the other end now. 5 years into the journey, my report showed that I no longer had RA. In fact, I remember it was at a new doctor that I had gone to, and she was so confused looking at me that I would want to even have that test done. And then when she got the results, she's like, I don't even know why you wanted this test done. You don't have RA. And that was such a big celebration for me. even though my symptoms went away after starting, gluten-free and then grain-free and then keto, and then, I went through that journey and eventually landed on carnivore. It took about 5 years for the reports to reflect that. But in my body, there was change immediately, which I'm so grateful for. So the three things that I would say made the biggest difference for me, I'm going to talk about these, and then I'm going to invite you in the chat or in the comments to let me know which one what other videos you want me to deep dive. I want this to be a series of conversations that we're having to celebrate this 13 year. 13 is my favorite number. It's the year of the goddess. It's the number of the goddess. And so I really want to celebrate this milestone. Number one thing is mindset. I remember when I got the diagnosis, they said this is a lifelong thing. There's no cure. You're going to be on medications for the rest of your life. Something in my psyche, something in my intuition just wouldn't accept that. And I'm sure that's true for a lot of people. I just could not accept that as true for me. And so mindset was really important. Like, never in my mind was there any doubt that I would live with this forever. It just wouldn't like register in my system that this was something I would have to live with. And so, I'm not a doctor or a nutritionist, and I'm not saying you should not take medication, but I decided that I did not want to take medication because of what happened with my mom and all the, I was just traumatized from that cancer stuff my mom went through, and I just decided that that's not going to be me. And so I refused medication and decided that there was going to be some other way. The second thing that really helped me is I instantly launched into what I call my knowledge formula. And how I like to break this down is a lot of people consume information, and information is information, and information is great. I have a really weird way of doing it where I will start consuming information and implementing it. So for me, it's not just about hearing, it's about doing. And when you have information plus doing, implementation plus implementation, that equals knowledge. So whatever I was reading, whatever doctors I started following, whatever I was listening to for that day, I would start instantly following it. And some of the things worked and some of the things didn't work, but I was able to really find out quickly, versus I would see other people in forums or on YouTube videos or talking to these doctors, and they were just like stuck in asking questions. And I had some questions too, and I did reach out to some of the doctors and they answered them, but I had very little questions because I would just do it and try it, and then I would realize what was working and not working. So I spent about 7-8 years studying nutrition really deeply, just on my own time. I was a stay-at-home mom at this time, by the time I got diagnosed. And so I was like spending 7-8 hours a day listening to YouTube videos, reading forums, reading tons of books, reading opposing sides. I would read all the books on keto, paleo, hunter-gatherers, carnivore, all the stuff, and then also read the books on vegetarians and vegan diet, and listen to those doctors and just biohack myself and try everything. And I was really able to get all the answers of what really worked for me and what really didn't. And it was a whole, it's been a 13-year ongoing journey. And there have been years which were easier than others, at least to implement. Like, for example, in the beginning, when my symptoms were the strongest, I was following the protocol that worked for me 100% of the time. And then when COVID happened, which was 2020, so from 2012 to 2020, I followed it to a T. When COVID happened, just the world was stressed, and my husband loves to cook, and he was at home from work, and he was cooking all these things, and most of it was what I could eat, but then some of it was for the kids, and I started sampling some of the stuff, and then I started gaining weight again, and my symptoms started creeping in, not as bad as before, but I could notice the change. The inflammation was bad, and so I wavered a little bit in 2020 during COVID, and then that was a wake-up call. In 2022, when we moved into this house, and I was traveling the most I've ever traveled in my life in 1 year, and we were in a new neighborhood with all these fancy foods, going out a lot, I started introducing some more things that I normally wouldn't eat. And again, I was no, I need to go back to doing it the clean way, because I instantly started noticing, like, my knee would start hurting again. Here and there, I would have a little bit of joint pain. It was nothing like what it was before, but I would experience it. And so those are a good experience to have sometimes too, because for me, it was easiest when my symptoms were the worst. And then over the years, there's been times where it was harder for me, especially with the traveling and everything. And I have had to find like that place inside of me that's like, hey, the life is just going to happen outside of you, but like, this is what gives you strength. This is what makes you feel your best. This is what gives you the most energy. And so it's been a beautiful journey. Number 3 thing that helped me is that, looking back, I'm so glad I got that diagnosis. I've always been a girl that's been interested in her work and personal development. I was reading personal development books since the age I was 7. So this is like my thing. And so I was already doing inner work, but it was really looking back, not to, disregard the journey of that version of myself, but the inner work that I was doing was more mindset work. I wasn't really going inside my body. There was no like healing of trauma inside the body, and that had to happen when I got diagnosed with this autoimmune disease, because autoimmune disease is very much a spiritual thing. It's very much a somatic thing, and I had to go through that deeper ascension, and that has been one of the most life-changing aspects of this entire journey. In fact, now that I myself am a 4-time certified life coach and somatic practitioner and healer and all the things, like, I see that I had to go through that to really understand what happens inside the human body and consciousness, and how our emotions and our thoughts and trauma, even generational trauma, racial trauma, physical trauma, all of that can lead to this manifestation of disease. And so I don't regret any of it, even though, yes, it was very painful when I was going through it and I was getting the runaround from doctors. At one point, I was going from chiropractor to chiropractor because of the joint pain, and the shoulder pain was intense. I would have this weird heart rhythm thing, and I kept going to the heart doctor, and they were like, your heart is fine. It was very confusing. I was losing hair to the point where I remember growing up and my mom would joke that we can all go in the wig business with just the hair that you lose. I mean, it was traumatic as a girl growing up and going through that. And so, but on the other end, I can say that it's led to the most divine spiritual awakening, this lifestyle that I love, and just being more health conscious and living my life more intentionally and enjoying every second of it, enjoying every meal, enjoying time with family, enjoying my life, my business, my body, my children, my clients, and just really fully appreciating the time that we do have on this planet and making the most of it. And yes, I know back in the day when I used to do keto videos and carnivore videos and autoimmune videos all the time, people would get really triggered when I would say that this is the best thing that has happened to me, because obviously it's a painful disease. But I'm sorry if this triggers anyone, but it is the best thing that happened to me, because it led me to where I am today. It led me to this beautiful awakening of consciousness and learning everything and healing from the inside out. I wonder sometimes, if I had access to this information while my mom was still alive, maybe she would be alive. But it needed to happen that way. Maybe she's the reason that my life got saved. Maybe if she was still alive with all her symptoms, I wouldn't have taken my symptoms seriously. Only God knows, but I'm grateful to be here today. So let me know which of these aspects you would like for me to dive in deeper. Ooh, before I let you go, I do want to talk about, what do I eat? So I consider myself a carnivore that eats mostly meat, but occasionally, if I'm going out with friends, if I'm out with my family, I will allow some vegetables. Now, I know carnivores get, really worked up, the ones that are doing this very strict when I talk about eating vegetables sometimes, but being carnivore. But that's my identity. That's how I see it. I eat meat 99% of the time, and that 1% of the time, having some of my favorite vegetables doesn't hurt me, doesn't cause gut issues or anything like that, like in the past. So that's where I'm at now. I eat mostly beef. Beef is my favorite thing to eat. My body loves beef. Beef loves me. I don't like grass-fed beef. I've never been able to get used to the taste of that. So I just like regular beef. If I'm on the road or traveling or something like that, McDonald's beef patties with no bun is like a easy thing to get. Five Guys beef patties with no bun, Burger King's beef patty. Like I will just do that if I'm out and about. At restaurants, I will get you know, a hamburger or a steak or a grilled chicken piece with, you know, none of the buns or anything like that. I'm not the biggest fan of chicken. I will eat chicken as variety, but it's not like my first choice that I will pick. I've never really been a big fan of chicken. I love tuna. My family is huge on sushi, and so I get the spicy tuna roll without the rice. I'll just have it with the wrapped in cucumber, and so that's how I have it. Or I'll just have the sashimi, and that way I still get to have my sushi without the rice. So that is primarily what I eat. Another thing that's really huge that I can expand on for me is intermittent fasting. I have been intermittent fasting intentionally for about 11 hours. I'm sorry, 11 years, 11 hours, 11 years, but unintentionally my whole life because I hate breakfast. And I never liked eating breakfast and never really ate breakfast. So technically I was doing intermittent fasting most of my life without knowing it. But intentionally, when I like found out about it, and it made so much sense to me as someone that's really been interested in hunter-gatherers and paleo and, you know, evolutionary psychology and all the things. It was like, oh, duh, yes, you know, they didn't have food available all the time. Fasting has been a big part of our evolutionary history. And so I've been doing it intentionally for about 11 years and absolutely love it. The other thing that really works for me is that I don't eat to 100% stomach capacity. I don't know what it is. My body likes it when I eat to about 70-80% capacity. I think there's a Japanese saying that if you want to be healthy, only eat to about 70-80% of your stomach. And I know when I like go out somewhere or if I'm traveling and if I eat to 100%, I just don't like the way I feel. Even if it's the right foods, I feel bogged down and heavy. Versus when I eat 70-80%, I feel good. Like that's like satisfaction for me versus eating more and then feeling like heavy. So I don't like that stomach stretch and that feeling of heaviness. And I don't know what it is. I just do better with smaller portions. Even if I need to eat more often, which I don't really need to on carnivore, you don't need to eat, you're not hungry a lot on carnivore. You get all the nutrients you need. So you're not like nutritionally hungry, but eating a lot of food. And so that is another thing that I'm mindful of, that I just, you know, I just take what I need, eat to 70-80% capacity, and then just that's enough for me. So I hope that this video finds you well. Let me know what you would like for me to elaborate on, and I'll do a follow-up video. All right, bye.